Hey everybody, welcome back to part 3 of my 40k bootcamp series on the psychic powers. This is actually technically part 4, but we're just going to call it part 3 because I had to cut the video a little short. Anyways, so we were talking about basically mastery level and odds and things like that, and the demon bomb armies that it seems to be have the internet quite up in arms right now. Well, first off, let's kind of talk about just generic casting and odds and things like that. It seems like most armies are probably going to want a sweet spot of between 10 to mastery levels of dice to pull from and casting and things like that. It gives you decent odds to get off mastery level 2 stuff. Mastery level 3 is always going to be very hard to do unless you are generating like 30 to 40 dice to cast with. It's just going to be very difficult. It's going to be very tactical to get these kind of spells off, and that's why a lot of things went up in price, because it's actually harder to get them off, and I think that's what Games Workshop wanted. It's hard to actually know what they ever want, but this just seems to be the way they're going. So just keep in mind, here's the basic odds. So the average roll of 4 on a d6 is gonna be what you generate. So say you just take a normal army from 6th edition where you got 2 like mastery level 1 casters, right? You're just gonna have 2 plus like 4, so you're gonna have 6. And your opponent probably is going to have the same thing, like 1 or 2, or even if he has none, he's going to get 4 free dice right off that. So right then and there, you're still pretty neck and neck. And if you're not casting a lot, high level stuff, they're going to be able to throw dice at you. So let's take a look. So if your master level's 2, you're getting a 6. Your opponent's getting a 4 to dispel. Well, let's take a look at the odds of doing some sort of things right here. On say you're trying to cast a Warp Charge 2 spell. The chances of you actually passing on 3d6 are about 88% to 90%, depending on how you round up fractions with dice. So the chances of your opponent actually dispelling you, just assuming that you roll the 1-4 up to actually pass it, is only 8%. So that's actually pretty good. However, if he wants to throw like all his dice at it, like, oh, you're not getting that off, and you only rolled the 1-4 up, and he's trying, going for the 1-6 up on 66, or even the 46. On the 46 is about 15%. On 66, saying he has about just as many dudes as you do, it's about 25%. So 25% of the time, you're not even gonna get that spell off. So then he's got to start thinking about escalating it, and getting things up. So it seems like if you're not bringing a higher mastery level than your opponent, these mastery level 1 guys, you're not going to be able to get as much stuff off. Your opponent's going to have just as many dispel dice as you, so really want to keep that in mind. So it's about a 50% chance to successfully cast a Warp Charge 2 spell with 3 dice. And your opponent, assuming you just cast you got the 2 4-ups to cast it, it's about a 14% chance to dispel. On 46, it's even higher, I think. Well, no, on 46, say you use all their dice, it's about 14% chance. And that's not even, counting that if you target their spell and they get bonuses and things like that. It's just roll for roll, not specifically getting bonuses and things like that. So a Warp Charge 1 spell requires 3 dice for an 88% chance of success. So they're a little bit easier to get off, obviously. If you have 3 dice, you have a pool of 6, and you got 3, you can throw it at it, you're probably going to get it off. And you have an 8% chance for perils there. They also have an 8% chance to dispel you, assuming that you're only looking for the 1-4 up, and they're looking for the 1-6 up. Actually, it's lower than that. It's actually higher than that, because 8% is for 2 boxcars. So the chances to deal the spell is actually pretty higher. So just keep that in mind. And again, that's assuming no bonuses for modifiers and things like that, and they're using the same amount of dice to dispel you. So taking that into consideration, you really need to be throwing about 5 or 6 dice on the Warp Charge 2 stuff for like an 88 to 90% success rate. And unfortunately, that's a 20 to 25% chance for Perils. So about 1 in 4 times you try to cast a spell, you're going to Perils. And we all know there's 6 turns in the game, usually-ish. So the chances of you actually losing your Psyker or something really bad happening to him at least once in that game are pretty high, right? Because you do the math, it's 1 in 4, you're going to do it for at least 6 times, something's going to happen, right? So, ooh, it's starting to get a little dicey, right? That's it. Now, a Warp Charge 3 spell, keeping that in mind, 5 to 6, throwing on Warp Charge 2. So, Warp Charge 3, you're going to want 8 to 9. 8 to 9 dice. And remember, we're talking, a sweet spot seems to be about 10 to 12 mastery levels here, because that gets you basically 2 really good attempts to cast a Warp Charge 2, throwing 5 to 6 dice, or one attempt at a Warp Charge 2 and 2 attempts at a Warp Charge 1, or maybe you could get 4 to Warp Charge 1 if you're just throwing onesies at it. So a lot of math here. It's starting to get very tactical. So Warp Charge 3 spell requiring 8 to 9 dice. So that's only, if you're running an average of 10 to 12, and then you're getting that extra, that extra D6 up to 16, now you're talking maybe 1 to 2 Warp Charge 3s, and that's assuming you get it off. But here's the kicker. Here's where it starts to get super dicey. 8 to 9 dice, your chance at perils has gone up to 40 to 45%. That's like almost a half. Something bad will happen to your caster at least twice a game, maybe 3 times a game. That's pretty crazy. Now, granted, and what we can take away from that is you'll actually, unless you actually have 8 to 9 dice, your opponent rather, to try to dispel these sort of things, you're going to get some stuff through, but you're also going to peril. So that mitigates it. Well, I got it through this time, but next time it might get canceled, or the guy just might die straight up. So it's it's getting kind of crazy, right? Getting to borrow from the Kenny Boucher, it's getting kind of hectic. So, well, where do we go from there? So, a lot of these Demon Varlogs are going to be running with 30 to 40 dice and things like that. So they're going to be having to cast. They're going to want to cast these Warp Charge 3 spells. Okay, cool. You're going to want to throw 8 to 9 dice, maybe 10. So they're going to be paralyzing at least, every 2 times, give or take. Now, that's not as big of a deal if they're using the blue horror squads and things like that, anything with Brotherhood of Psychers, to cast these off, because you're going to lose a random dude. No big deal. It's not like they're losing their 200-point caster. Losing your 200-point caster is way different from losing a free 15-point, pink horror or whatever. So the way to deal with that sort of thing is, yes, they're going to get some, they're going to get some squads off. They're going to summon a few things. They're going to get off. The real thing to do may be to try to dispel the +1 invulnerable saves. And once you get up in there, because remember, they have to summon them up to 12 inches from you, they're going to scatter. So they might scatter close to you. If you have some sort of assaulting element or really, really good target placing with your shooting, you're going to be able to kind of whittle out some of those squads, smash them in assault, because demonic instability, even if they get the +1 invulnerable or something like that, or one of these like special abilities like the Grimoire and things, yeah, they're going to try to stack it up, but they're going to have these 6, 7, 8 squads. And if you can smash, you can combat charge 2, smash them, run them off the board, run them down, they pop because of demonic instability, get some shooting on stuff, whittle them down. I've seen it where by turn 3 or 4, this demon players ends up trying to sacrifice his greater demons at that point into his demon princes into greater demons, in a last ditch effort to try to just try to stay in the game. If you play smart, you can really do some damage to these kind of armies. Plus the fact, if you have 16 dispel dice, you might be able to get a lucky dispel off, maybe on the Cursed Earth, that's gonna bonus their invulnerable save, or even a summoning themselves, so it's less work for you. You just have to be very tactical about it and hang in there. And if you don't give up, you don't surrender, you can really do some work on some of these armies. They're not as high and mighty as everybody's making them out to be. It may be a problem, it may be the thing, and that's up to the community as a whole to figure it out. But yeah, they're not fun to play. I mean, they're just not fun to play against, obviously. So some people just want to play like that, and it's just going to be that way. So keep that in mind, kind of when you're casting. You want to be careful how much dice you're putting into it, because you don't want to be losing your 200-point characters, and you also kind of want to try to throw out your spells in kind of weird order, to where maybe your unimportant stuff is going out first, so your opponent tries to dispel something that might not be, crucially your plans, and then you try to get it off with the rest of your dice, or vice versa. You might just want to lead with your big spells right out of the gate and just kind of see what happens. But if you're reading this, if you're watching this video right now, there's probably an article attached with it. If not, head over to the blog, spikybitsblog.com, and I'm going to post up the odds tables on casting some of these spells with up to 10d6. You know, because I think it'll just kind of give you the odds for some of the stuff to see, just kind of how it goes and how you might, you know, want to be throwing your dice at things, and just to mentally kind of go through a checklist of, oh, okay, I got these guys and I want to be casting this stuff. How many dice should I throw at it? What's my average summoning, or what's my average psychic harness, warp charge harness, and just kind of go from there. Because the psychic phase has the real potential to be a super fun part of the game, and allows for a lot of interactions between you and your opponent. And it's really cool to just try to, you know, it's like playing a little game of poker in a game of 40K. It's like playing a game of poker in a game of chess, right? So it's pretty neat, and it definitely allows for a lot of interactions. So take that opportunity to have some fun with your opponent, and you know, just have fun with it, enjoy your hobby. So that's it for this one, guys. I think we're going to wrap up the Psychic Phase Bootcamp series of videos with this. We'll switch over to some more of the hobby basics, or excuse me, the new bootcamp basics for the new 40K 7th edition in general with the next series of videos. So make sure you stay in the trenches, subscribe to this YouTube channel, check out the blog, spikybitsblog.com, and listen to our podcast, forgethenarrative.com.